The mall was never truly quiet, even after closing. That was the first thing you learned working the night shift. The escalators groaned like old machinery refusing to sleep. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, and somewhere deep in the walls, air vents whispered constantly, like the building was breathing. Christmas Eve made it worse. By 10:07 p.m., the last shoppers had been herded out to the main doors, arms full of bags, faces red with stress and cold. Security locked the entrances one by one, the metal gates slamming shut with finality. The sound echoed down the corridors, bouncing off glass storefronts and polished tile floors. I stood near the security desk, badge clipped to my jacket, coffee already going cold in my hands. 8 hours, I muttered to myself. Just 8 hours. I had taken the night shift because no one else wanted it. Christmas Eve was supposed to be quiet. Minimal foot traffic, no customers, just routine patrols until morning. Extra holiday pay didn't hurt either. At least that's what management promised. The mall lights dimmed slightly after closing, switching to night mode. Storefronts went dark, mannequins frozen behind glass like pale plastic witnesses. Decorations remained lit, fake pine garlands wrapped around railings, blinking red and green lights, and oversized ornaments hanging from the ceiling. Everything festive felt wrong without people. "Control tonight, staff," crackled the radio on my shoulder. "Final sweep begins now. Report anything unusual." Anything unusual. In a place like this, that phrase was almost laughable. I started my patrol on the lower level. Footsteps echoed too loudly in the empty corridors, each step bouncing back at me half a second later. The smell of stale popcorn from the closed cinema lingered in the air, mixed with industrial cleaner and something faintly metallic. I passed the toy store first. The gate was pulled down, but the lights inside were still on. Rows of stuffed animals stared out through the bars, their stitched smiles frozen. A mechanical Santa near the back twitched slightly as I walked past, its arm jerking once before going still again. I stopped. The toy Santa hadn't been scheduled to move. All motion sensors were disabled after closing. Probably a power hiccup, I told myself, forcing my feet to keep moving. The farther I went, the more the mall felt stretched, like the hallways were longer than they should be. The Christmas music that had been looping all day was supposed to shut off at closing, but faint echoes of it still drifted through the air, warped, slowed, as if playing from a dying speaker somewhere far away. I reached the central atrium. The massive Christmas tree stood there, towering nearly 3 stories tall. Ornaments reflected the dim lights and fractured patterns. Beneath it sat the empty Santa's village, velvet ropes, fake snow, a massive red chair. Santa himself was gone. At least, he was supposed to be. I checked my watch. 10:41 p.m. That's when I noticed the footprints. They appeared in the fake snow around the Santa set, heavy, uneven boot prints leading away from the chair and toward the darker side corridor near the loading docks. I knelt down, touching one carefully. The snow was cold. Actually cold. That didn't make sense. The snow was synthetic foam, replaced weekly. It shouldn't have temperature at all. "Control?" I said into my radio. "I've got something odd near the central tree." Static answered. I tried again. Nothing but a low hiss. The mall felt heavier then, like the air had thickened. The lights flickered once overhead, just enough to make my stomach drop. I stood slowly and followed the footprints. The corridor towards the loading docks was darker than the rest of the mall. Emergency lights cast long shadows that stretched and bent unnaturally along the walls. My footsteps sounded wrong here, dull, muffled, as if the floor was swallowing the sound. Halfway down the corridor, I heard it. A bell. Just one. A soft jingle echoing faintly ahead of me. I froze. No one else should be inside the building. Every exit was locked. Every alarm was armed. Another bell rang, closer this time. Jingle, jingle. I reached for my flashlight and swept the beam ahead. The corridor was empty. But at the far end, near the service elevator, something massive stood in the shadows. Red fabric, white trim, a tall, unmoving silhouette. My throat went dry. "Hello?" I called, immediately regretting it. The figure stepped forward into the emergency light. It was Santa. Not the cheerful mall version I'd seen earlier. This one was taller, broader. The suit looked old, stained, frayed, darkened in places like it had absorbed years of grime. The beard hung unevenly, matted and yellowed, and the hat drooped low, shadowing the face completely. He didn't wave, he didn't smile. He just stood there, breathing. Each breath fogged the air. "You're not supposed to be here," I said, my voice barely steady. Santa tilted his head slowly to one side. Then the radio on my shoulder crackled to life, not with voices, with laughter, low, distorted, looping endlessly. The emergency lights flickered once. When they stabilized, Santa was closer, too close. And behind him, stretching back into the darkness of the service corridor, I could see more footprints forming in the snow, appearing one by one, as if something invisible was walking towards me. The bell jingled again. This time, right behind my ear. I didn't run. That's the part that still bothers me. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to turn around, to sprint back toward the brightly lit atrium, to find another human being before whatever stood in front of me decided to move again. But my legs refused. Fear had locked them in place, as if the mall itself had wrapped invisible hands around my ankles and rooted me to the floor. Santa stood there, motionless. The emergency lights hummed overhead, bathing the corridor in a sickly orange glow. His suit absorbed the light instead of reflecting it, the red appearing almost black in places. The bells stitched along his sleeve trembled slightly, even though there was no breeze. "You need to leave," I said, louder now, forcing authority into my voice. "Mall's closed, security's on site." The figure did not respond. The radio laughter cut off abruptly, replaced by dead static. I lifted my hand to adjust it, and that's when Santa took a step forward. The sound of his boot hitting the tile echoed far too loudly, as if the corridor had stretched again, amplifying every noise. I stepped back instinctively, my heel catching on an uneven patch of flooring. I nearly went down. Santa tilted his head back to center. Still no face, just shadow beneath the hat, darker than the darkness around it. "Control," I said again into the radio, my voice shaking now. "I need backup at..." The radio screeched, cutting me off. Then, in a voice that was not mine, not anyone's, it whispered, "Still awake." I ripped the radio from my shoulder and threw it down the corridor. It cloddered uselessly across the tile, skidding to a stop near Santa's boots. He looked down at it. Slowly, deliberately, he nudged it with his foot. The laughter returned. I ran. My boots slapped against the floor as I sprinted back toward the atrium, lungs burning, heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst through my chest. The mall lights flickered violently as I ran, sections going dark behind me, plunging the corridor into shadow inch by inch, like the building itself was chasing me. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I could hear him. The bells rang with every step now, no longer soft or distant. They were loud, erratic, right behind me, overlapping in unnatural rhythms. Sometimes they sounded like metal scraping bone. Sometimes they sounded like laughter. I burst into the atrium, skidding to a stop near the base of the massive Christmas tree. The space felt wrong now, bigger, emptier. The ceiling stretched upward into darkness I didn't remember being there before. The lights snapped back on. Silence. I turned slowly, scanning every entrance. Nothing. No Santa, no footprints. Just the tree, the empty Santa chair, and rows of shuttered stores staring back at me. I stood there, gasping, trying to convince myself I'd imagined it. Stress, long hours, too much caffeine. That's what night shifts did to people. Then I noticed the escalators. They were moving. The mall's escalators were programmed to shut down automatically after closing. Everyone knew that. Yet both sets were running now, carrying nothing upward and downward in an endless loop. At the top of the upward escalator, a shadow stood perfectly still. Not Santa. Something smaller. I squinted, heart sinking. It was a child. A little boy, maybe 6 or 7 years old, standing at the edge of the escalator platform. He wore a puffy winter coat and a red scarf wrapped too tightly around his neck. His face was pale, his eyes dark and unfocused. "Hey, you're not supposed to be here. Where are your parents?" The boy did not respond. The escalator carried him down toward me, step by step. I backed away as he descended, unease crawling up my spine. His feet didn't move to walk off at the bottom. He simply stayed in place as the steps flattened beneath him. When he reached the floor, he stopped. "You okay?" I asked. The boy's mouth opened. "No," he said. His voice echoed strangely, as if several voices were speaking through him at once. "They forgot me." A chill ran through me. "Who did?" The boy raised his arm and pointed past me. "At the Santa chair. He said to wait. He said Christmas morning comes if you're good." My stomach dropped. The lights dimmed again. I turned toward the chair. Someone was sitting in it. Santa. This version looked worse. The suit was darker, soaked as if it had been dragged through slush and rot. The beard hung in clumps, and beneath it I could see glimpses of skin, gray, crocked, stretched too tight. His gloves were off now, revealing hands that were too long, fingers bending slightly backward at the joints. The chair creaked as he leaned forward. "You shouldn't have run," Santa said. His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It filled the atrium, vibrating in my bones. The boy beside me began to cry. I stepped in front of him without thinking. "Get away from him. This isn't funny. You're trespassing." Santa laughed. It sounded like sleigh bells being crushed underfoot. "Trespassing," he repeated. "This place stays open for me." He stood. The tree lights flickered violently, ornaments shaking, glass balls cracking one by one and shattering on the tile. The mall doors slammed shut simultaneously, the impact echoing through the building like a gunshot. Santa stepped off the platform. With every step, the temperature dropped. Frost crept across the tile floor, spreading outward in branching patterns. My breath fogged heavily now. "You work nights," Santa said. "You see what stays awake." The boy screamed. The escalators reversed direction suddenly, pulling towards Santa instead of away. The boy's feet slid across the ice-covered floor as he struggled to stay upright. I grabbed him, digging my boots into the frost, muscles screaming as the pull intensified. Santa watched calmly. "Not all children make it to morning. Not all workers either." The mall groaned. Walls creaked, ceiling panels shifted. Somewhere above us, something heavy dragged itself across the ventilation system, metal shrieking against metal. I felt it then, the truth settling into my bones. The mall wasn't closed. It never closed. Not on Christmas Eve. This place belonged to him after midnight, and I was still on shift. The mall screamed, not with sound, but with movement. The walls flexed inward, the ceiling groaned, and the floor vibrated beneath my boots as if the building itself had awakened from a long, restless sleep. The escalators jerked violently, reversing direction again, throwing the boy and me sideways. I barely managed to keep my grip on his arm as we slammed into the base of the Christmas tree. "Run," I told him, though I had no idea where. The lights overhead shattered one by one, plunging sections of the atrium into darkness. Emergency lighting flickered weakly, casting long, warped shadows that stretched and twisted unnaturally across the tile. Santa's silhouette loomed through it all, standing impossibly still, watching us struggle. The boy screamed again as the frost surged outward, racing across the floor like living veins. I pulled him toward the nearest corridor, my boots slipping, my heart hammering so hard it drowned out every rational thought. We ducked into a side hallway just as the atrium lights went out completely. Darkness swallowed us. For a moment, there was nothing but the sound of our breathing and the distant jingle of bells echoing through the mall's bones. Then the emergency lights buzzed to life, dim and sickly, illuminating a sign above us. Lost and found. I froze. The door beneath the sign was slightly ajar. The boy stared at it, his eyes wide with terror. He makes us wait there, before the morning that never comes. A deep, distant thud echoed through the corridor behind us. Santa was moving again. I shoved the door open and dragged the boy inside, slamming it shut behind us. The lock clicked into place automatically, though I hadn't touched it. The air inside the Lost and Found was stale and cold, heavy with the smell of damp fabric and dust. Shelves lined the walls, stacked with abandoned items, scarves, mittens, single shoes, backpacks, cracked phones. Christmas hats slumped in plastic bins, their bells rusted and silent. None of it looked recent. The boy backed away slowly, shaking. They never get picked up. No one comes back. I tried the radio again. Nothing. The mall groaned louder now, the sound reverberating through the walls. Something scraped along the outside of the door, slow and deliberate, as if testing it. Then Santa spoke, right through the door. Found things belong to me. Lost things stay. The door handle began to turn. I grabbed the nearest thing I could find, a broken umbrella, and held it uselessly in front of me. The handle twisted further, ice forming around it, creeping along the metal like frostbite. The boy whimpered. Suddenly, the door stopped moving. Silence fell again. Then footsteps. Retreating. I didn't relax, not yet. Minutes passed, maybe more. Time felt elastic here, stretching and snapping unpredictably. My watch had stopped at 11:58. Always 11:58. "Why you?" the boy asked quietly. I swallowed. "I don't know." He nodded like that answer made sense. "They choose workers," he said. "People who don't go home. People who watch empty places." Before I could ask more, the lights inside the Lost and Found flickered. Then they went out completely. Darkness felt heavier than before, pressing in from all sides. I reached out, my hand brushing against cold fabric, then something warm. The boy's hand. "Don't let go," he whispered. The shelves began to shift. I heard objects sliding, falling, rearranging themselves. A faint whisper rose from the darkness, thousands of overlapping voices murmuring intelligibly. I realized then that the Lost and Found wasn't a room, it was a collection. The lights snapped back on. The shelves were gone. In their place stood rows of people. Children, adults, mall employees in faded uniforms. They stood motionless, eyes open but empty, clutching items in their hands, lost gloves, phones, hats, toys. Their skin was pale, frostbite in places, veins dark beneath the surface. The boy let out a sob. "They're still waiting," he said. One of the figures stepped forward. It was a woman in a security jacket like mine. Her name badge read Lisa. Her lips moved slowly. "He comes at midnight," she whispered. "He sorts us." A bell jingled somewhere overhead. The figures began to move. They shuffled toward us in unison, feet sliding across the floor without lifting, arms reaching out, offering the items they held. "Take it," Lisa said. "If you take something, you stay." I backed away, heart racing. The boy tugged at my sleeve. "Don't," he begged. The bell rang again, louder this time. The walls peeled back like paper, revealing the atrium beyond. But it was wrong now. Vast, endless. The Christmas tree stretched upward beyond sight, its lights pulsing like a heartbeat. Santa stood at its base, watching. The Lost and Found figures turned toward Santa. "He's calling," the boy whispered. Santa raised one gloved hand. The figures obeyed. They shuffled past us, disappearing into the lightless expanse beyond the door. Lisa was the last to go. She paused, her empty eyes meeting mine. "Morning never comes, not unless someone takes your place." The door slammed shut. The boy and I were alone again.
The mall trembled violently. A new sound echoed through the corridors now, sleigh bells and something heavier, dragging, approaching. The boy looked up at me. He's coming back. He always does. I tightened my grip on his hand, dread settling deep in my chest. Whatever Santa was, whatever rules governed this place, one thing was clear now. Christmas Eve wasn't ending, and the mall was still hungry.
The mall changed after that. It did not do so suddenly or violently or with the dramatic chaos I expected. Instead, it settled into something colder, quieter, and far more deliberate. The walls stopped groaning. The lights stabilized into a dull, unwavering glow. Even the distant bells faded, leaving behind an oppressive stillness that felt heavier than noise. My watch still read 11:58. It had not moved in what felt like hours. The boy stood beside me, his small hand clenched tightly in mine. His breathing was shallow, controlled, as if he had learned long ago that panic only made things worse here. I wished I had learned that sooner. "We can't stay here," I said, my voice echoing too clearly in the empty corridor. "He knows where we are." The boy nodded slowly. "There are rules," he said. I looked down at him. "Rules?" "Yes," he replied. "He follows them. So does the mall." That made my stomach turn. Something that followed rules could not be reasoned with. Rules meant structure, intention, and permanence. "What rules?" I asked. The boy hesitated, then pointed down the corridor toward the darker wing of the mall where the older stores were located, the ones scheduled for renovation but never quite touched. "Midnight rules," he said. "They start when the bells stop." As if summoned by his words, the distant echo of bells rang once, sharp and final. Then silence swallowed everything. The mall lights dimmed again, not flickering this time, but lowering evenly, like a theater preparing for the final act. The temperature dropped several degrees and frost crept slowly across the floor, stopping just short of our feet, as if respecting an invisible boundary. Somewhere deep within the building, a clock chimed. Not midnight. 1 minute before it. 11:59. The boy squeezed my hand. "Rule 1, he said quietly. "You do not hide when he is counting." A voice rolled through them all. Not loud, not close, but everywhere. 59. The sound vibrated in my chest, in my teeth, in the base of my skull. It was Santa's voice stripped of all warmth, stretched thin and ancient. "Rule 2, the boy continued. "You do not run unless you know where the doors lead." 58. I swallowed hard, pulling the boy closer as we moved slowly down the corridor. The stores here were old. Outdated signage, dusty display windows, mannequins frozen in outdated fashion, their plastic eyes dull and scratched. "Rule 3, the boy said. "Do not answer him if he calls you by name." 57. My heart skipped. "He knows your name?" I whispered. The boy nodded. "He learns it when you start your shift." The floor vibrated beneath us. I could feel movement now, heavy and deliberate, somewhere above us. The ventilation system groaned, metal flexing as something massive shifted through it. 56. We reached a service hallway marked "Employees Only." The door stood open, darkness yawning beyond it. I hesitated. "Rule 4, the boy said. "Staff areas are not safe. They belong to him." 55. Too late. The hallway behind us flooded with shadow, swallowing the corridor we had just left. I did not think. I pulled the boy through the door and slammed it shut behind us. The counting stopped. Silence. Then, slowly, deliberately, footsteps. They were not rushed. They did not echo. They sounded close no matter where we moved, as if distance no longer applied. We backed down the hallway, passing lockers, break room doors, old corkboards still covered with yellowed memos and faded holiday schedules. My name was pinned to one of them, in red ink. The lights flickered overhead. "Rule 5, the boy whispered, tears streaming silently down his face.
When the counting stops, he's already close. The break room door creaked open on its own. Santa stepped inside. He filled the space impossibly, his head nearly brushing the ceiling tiles. The suit was worse now, soaked and dark, the white trim stained gray and brown. His beard moved slightly, as if something beneath it was breathing independently. His face was visible now, not fully, just enough. Skin stretched too tight across bone, mouth split too wide, smiling without joy. Eyes sunk deep into shadow, reflecting the fluorescent lights like dull glass. "You broke the rules," he said calmly. My legs trembled, but I stood my ground, positioning myself in front of the boy. "He's a child, let him go." Santa tilted his head. "He was lost," he replied. "I keep lost things." The lockers behind us began to rattle. Doors banged open one by one, spilling out uniforms, name badges, shoes, phones, all the things people left behind when they never clocked out again. Santa took one slow step forward. Christmas morning only comes when someone stays behind. The floor cracked beneath his boot, ice spiderwebbing outward. I understood then. The lost and found, the waiting workers, the rules. This was not punishment, it was balance. "Take me," I said before I could stop myself. The boy gasped. Santa paused. The mall went completely silent. "You offer yourself?" Santa said, almost curious. "Yes," I replied, my voice shaking but steady. "Let him go." Santa considered this, his smile widening unnaturally. "Rule 6, the boy whispered desperately. Never volunteer." Santa laughed. The sound shook the walls, rattled the lockers, and sent a sharp pain through my head. "Very well," Santa said, "but there is one more rule." He leaned closer, and I could smell him now. Cold iron, old snow, something rotten beneath it all. "You must finish your shift." The lights went out. When they came back on, the boy was gone. The break room was empty. I stood alone. My radio crackled to life on the table beside me. "Night staff," a distorted voice, familiar, said. "Patrol continues until morning." My watch ticked forward. 12 o'clock. Then stopped. The bells rang again, slow and deliberate. Somewhere in the mall, a child was crying. And I knew. My shift was not over. The mall no longer felt large. It felt endless. The moment the lights returned and I realized the boy was gone, the space around me seemed to stretch outward in every direction. The break room walls looked farther apart than they had moments earlier. The ceiling felt higher. The exits felt impossibly distant, like memories instead of places. My radio sat on the table, humming softly. "Patrol continues until morning," the voice repeated, slower now, warped, as if spoken through thick ice. I picked it up with trembling hands. "There is no morning," I whispered. The radio crackled. "Not for staff." The door behind me swung open, revealing the service hallway once again. It looked cleaner now, straighter, as if the mall had reset itself, preparing for another cycle. Frost had retreated neatly to the corners of the floor. The lockers stood closed, silent, obedient. I stepped out into the corridor. The bells rang somewhere above me, not fast, not slow, measured. I began to walk. There was nothing else to do. The mall guided me as I moved, gently but firmly. Hallways curved when I wasn't looking, storefronts rearranged themselves between blinks. Familiar paths led somewhere new, while unfamiliar doors opened like they had always belonged there. I passed the lost and found again. The door was closed now, freshly painted, the sign polished and clean. No voices leaked from beneath it, no shadows moved behind the frosted glass. Only a small red scarf lay neatly folded outside the door. I did not touch it. The central atrium came into view eventually, though I could not tell how long it took. Time meant nothing here. The Christmas tree still stood tall and perfect, its lights glowing steadily, no longer flickering. The ornaments had repaired themselves, every cracked surface restored. The Santa chair waited beneath it, empty, for now. I circled the tree once, then twice, my boots leaving faint prints that faded seconds later. The mall breathed around me, slow and satisfied. It felt calm, as if a problem had been solved. A familiar ache settled into my bones. Fatigue. Not physical, something deeper. The exhaustion of being seen. The sound of footsteps echoed from the upper level. Heavy. Deliberate. Santa emerged from the shadows near the railing, descending the stairs one step at a time. His movements were slower now, almost ceremonial. The suit looked cleaner, fresher, as if it had been renewed. He stopped a few feet away. "You stayed," he said. I nodded. "You finished your count. You followed the rules." "I want to leave," I said. Santa smiled gently. "So does everyone else." He gestured toward the main entrance. The glass doors shimmered, frost crawling across them from the edges inward. Beyond them, I could see darkness. No snow, no streetlights, no world. "Your shift ends when someone replaces you." The realization hit me slowly, sinking in layer by layer. The workers in Lost and Found, Lisa, the others. They were not punished, they were relieved. This place needs watchers. It needs those who stay awake, who notice what should not be here. He stepped aside, revealing a small desk that had not been there before. A security desk, identical to the one I'd started at hours ago. A clipboard rested on top of it. One name was already written there. Mine. "You will keep it orderly," Santa said. "You will walk the halls. You will guide the lost. You will ensure the rules are followed." "And if I refuse?" I asked. Santa's smile faded. "You already agreed." The bells rang once. The desk chair slid backward on its own. I felt the mall press against me then, gently but insistently, guiding me toward the desk. The air grew colder with every step. The lights overhead dimmed to their night setting. I sat. The chair adjusted itself. The clipboard lifted slightly, then settled back down. A second name appeared beneath mine. Blank. Waiting. My radio crackled. "Night staff. Final sweep begins now." I stood. The mall no longer resisted me as I walked. Doors opened when I approached. Lights brightened ahead of me and dimmed behind me. The building knew me now. I passed storefronts where mannequins seemed to watch more closely than before. I passed the cinema where faint movement shifted behind the screen. I passed the toy store where the mechanical Santa waved slowly as I walked by. I did not wave back. At the far end of the lower level, I heard footsteps. Human footsteps. Uneven. Hesitant. I turned the corner. A man stood there, bundled in a winter coat, breath fogging the air. His eyes were wide, confused, darting around at the decorations, the lights, the emptiness. "Hello?" he called. "Is anyone here?" I felt something tighten in my chest. "Sir," I said, stepping forward. "The mall is closed." He sighed with relief when he saw me. "Thank God, I thought I was locked in. I just needed a place to warm up." I looked at his hands. No gloves, red and raw from the cold. "You should come with me." "Is there an exit?" he asked. I hesitated. "Yes," I said, finally. The bells rang overhead, soft and distant. The man did not notice. As we walked, I caught my reflection in a darkened storefront window. My uniform looked older now, the fabric slightly worn, the badge dull. My eyes looked tired, but awake. Forever awake. Behind us, the mall doors sealed themselves quietly. And somewhere deep in the building, a clock stopped just before morning.